Alrighty, welcome back to the Yarn Yard podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Austin, and today we've got a very special guest and one that's welcomed me right into his home. We've been in the sauna, we've been in the pool, and now we're in your podcast studio. So thanks for having me, man.
No worries at all. No worries at all, bro. Glad to be here.
Epic. So really what I want to touch on and what I'm excited to speak about today is the masculine and feminine polarity and what that means to you, and maybe I can speak on what it means to me as well. But I think you're a very good person to have this conversation with, because I think it's quite a sensitive subject, and I think one that we're still redefining. So I guess to kick things off, I'll ask, what does masculinity mean to you? And where would you like to see it going?
Love this question, bro. And this is my favorite topic to speak about. So we've got 3 hours on the SD card. Let's see if we can fill it up. Masculinity for me is service in its purest form. It's the ability to serve something greater than yourself. In that, it can be seen as some of the shadows of this is the workaholic. Some of the shadows of this is the guy that gets lost in his mission and puts the blinkers on. So for me, the masculine it's not only service, it's also the attuning to what it needs to be of service to.
I love that.
So a lot of people speak about how focused you can be, and I think that's a great quality of the masculine, but a big part of the masculine journey as you continually mature, and I think that the masculine is always developing, always maturing, is its ability to widen its awareness. So rather than just be single focused and losing itself in the pursuit of what it's focused on, it's able to stay locked in and focus on that, but widen its awareness and be aware of what else is sitting in its field of consciousness.
Amazing. Yeah, I really like the idea of service, and I think it encompasses a lot of things, really. And I guess when it comes to defining it, what would you? I know you've covered what it isn't. What qualities would you say are the strongest point, or the strongest qualities that you feel like men should be stepping into?
Well, for me, the masculine is driven by freedom, by purpose, and it develops that through responsibility. So the three things that I believe the masculine embodies is provision, protection, and presence.
Yeah.
So presence is your ability to be intimate with something, your ability to connect with something. Can I be present enough to be deeply aware of what's here in this moment? And that's the one that I see a lot of men struggle with, mostly presence, especially when it comes to a partner or relating with another human. Protection is your ability to actually set boundaries and claim your kingdom. So it's who am I going to actually protect with my boundaries? Who am I going to take responsibility for? And then provision is your ability to create abundance. So and what you choose to do with that abundance. And it all comes back into the sort of those three things: presence, provision, and protection create purpose. And that's what drives a man, I believe, who has a masculine core. Yeah.
Wow. I really like that. It's almost similar to Ikigai, the Japanese concept.
You can see, I've been drawing circles on the glass in the sauna, so you know that I'm a circle guy. But I've been developing that kind of understanding the last probably 5 or 6 years, bro. So I've been learning how to categorize the masculine without putting it in a box. And the big thing of that Ikigai thing is it's expansive, right? So one of the biggest things that the masculine struggles with is feeling as though when it does choose to stand for something, it can also feel a bit like a cage. This is why a lot of guys have commitment issues, because they see a relationship as a cage. I'm now no longer able to choose whoever I want. But through committing deeply, you get to experience more of something, which gives you an access to like, what I believe is like the deepest form of freedom comes through responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big paradox. And I guess the intention behind me like holding this podcast and having this conversation with you is that I really wish from a young age I knew these things and I knew the difference and I was able to differentiate, certain values from others. And I think a core thing that men really crave is freedom.
Yeah.
And that's like the way we're wired, but we haven't had the education or the support to actually educate us to find that there's actually more freedom on the other side of a committed relationship.
Yeah, man. Like freedom to a 21-year-old and freedom to a 35-year-old, man, it's completely different things as well. Yeah. So if we're not continually redefining what freedom is to us, then we're stuck. Like we think we're free, but we're just choosing the same thing that's familiar. Me at 21, I wanted to just travel and party and ride BMX. And that was great until I felt the desire come online for a family. I want a family. But for me to have a family, I have to take responsibility on a deeper level. And to feel the freedom of my, being a father, of like having something to love outside of myself, like that required a redefining of freedom. Because to a 21-year-old having a kid, like I was like, fuck, I can't travel, I can't do this, I can't, was the statement that came online. If I had have had a child at 21, and then like now stepping into like wanting to, get pregnant with my partner this year and wanting to do these things, it's exciting. It's like, I can't wait. It's like, I want that. And I think a big part of freedom is, and this is a nice little thing to tie in that I teach men on all the time, is like, if you want to truly be free, you have to know exactly what your desires are. You have to like be clear on what you desire from your life. And if you're in the adventurous spirit to, part of your life where you don't want to be tied down to a relationship, to a family, to a job, to a home, then that's your desire. You get to own that. It doesn't make you right or wrong. And I think that's huge, man, because I speak to a lot of guys and the ancient cultures, man, all young men would go walkabout. All young men would go pilgrimage. All young men would leave the nest and go and find themselves through experience. It's a necessary part. It's not right or wrong. It's like a necessary.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I feel like as men, we need to play that out too, is we need to have that experience and that way to experience the world and have the world reflect back to us who we are,
Man, like you were talking about your trip just before in London, like if you hadn't have gone and done that, you wouldn't have had the experience where you met, someone, a musician that you like, gone to the gig and had all that. Like imagine like what it's like if you ever choose to have a family to like tell your children as they're growing up about the adventures that you went on, instead of telling them about, or instead of like sitting them in front of the TV and letting them watch other people tell their stories. What if they actually got to experience the stories from their direct lineage? That is like power to me, bro. That's why a man's adventurous spirit must be quenched by experience.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I guess coming from my perspective, I feel like what was confusing was this sense of, like the biological and physical pull to also be attracted to women. But it's almost, I've come to the understanding that I feel like if you're in that mindset as a man, that you want to like live and experience, like maybe that isn't the time to kind of be playing around with relationships and commitment. And I think that's where things, at least in my experience, has gotten quite ugly. Is I haven't known, what I'm in and acknowledged what I'm in.
Yeah.
to then make the right decisions, and it's just caused a lot of confusion.
And if you had someone that you could have spoken to about this that had experience, you probably would have been able to like not get as far down the
Exactly.
the track and realize, oh
Exactly.
fuck. I had deep conversations with guys around this. It's just like an inability to take the grey and make it black and white. And that's one of the I believe the maturing of the masculine is like I can sit here with you and be like, listen, I don't want to adventure around the world. Like if someone said, hey, do you want to go and spend 6 months in India? I'd be like, fuck no. You know, and other guys like, oh, hey, do you want to go surf? You know, want to go spend 6 months living in Morocco and surf every day? No, I don't. That seems fucking crazy to 21-year-old Jacob. Or do you want to go and do the snow season in Canada? No, I don't. Like I would go and live on a ranch somewhere in America and fucking learn how to, you know, ride horses and bull ride. That would probably, you'd probably get me out of my house for that. But for me, I'm in a season where I want to grow roots deep. I want to create a home. I want to create a family, and I'm okay sacrificing the other because I'm choosing this.
Would you say that's also a reflection of where you've found purpose as well, though?
Yes, but I'm also aware that I'm able to choose what I want more powerfully than ever, because I've wanted a family since I was 26. But I wasn't ready to say no to all of the other opportunities yet. There was still a part of me that wanted to adventure. So I was still traveling to Peru and South America and doing different trips to Bali, and I was still seeking more experience. I still needed to drink in more of life in that adventurous state as a young masculine man before I was ready to like actually like put my feet on the ground here and say, hey, this is where I want to stay for a little while. I want to slow down. And I would say that my purpose has shifted. It's shifted to, okay, I want this. This is the next evolution of my purpose.
Yeah. Incredible. So for those that don't know, I forgot to introduce you.
Oh, yeah.
And
the mystery man.
So Jacob's a men's leadership coach, and can you share what that entails and what that involves?
So I focus on 3 areas with men. This is you'll notice that I do lots of 3s, and you'll probably see it in the Ikigai again. I'm a very visual person, and I believe men are very visual. Like you said before, I'm going to go on a slight tangent, but I promise I'll come back, is that when you spoke about like women and being attracted to many women, like I'm still deeply attracted to beautiful women. I have an awesome fucking wife. You know, we've been married a year and a half now, and I love her to bits, and I'm choosing to be with her forever. And I'm boldly stating that claim, knowing that may not be the case. But like I'm still deeply attracted to beautiful women at the coffee shop who serve me my favorite coffee and smile and ask me how my day is. I think, wow, am I in love with you? I still feel the pull from the feminine. The radiant feminine energy is found outside of just my relationship, right? So I'm still deeply attracted to life and to the beauty of life. There's no doubt about that. But circling back to what I support men in, and it predominantly comes in the form of relationship breakdown or guys wanting to step up in their relationship. But I bring things back to three categories for men. So I support men to create a deeper understanding of self so they know what it's like to cultivate freedom from within. I support men in creating healthy relationships and opening to like a depth of relating that they've never known, because there's a desire for intimacy. And I don't just mean that in regards to partner. I mean that in creating a healthy group of friends as well. I call that the inner circle. And then I talk about how you create a healthy community. And I talk about how you create healthy boundaries and disengage from your family, stand on your own 2 feet, and then re-engage with them and create a new dynamic with your family. And then the third one is legacy. So I support men in creating a legacy. And that doesn't mean that you go out and save the world. Just it means that you have impact in a way that brings meaning to your life. And we craft it in those 3 areas. So self, relationships, and legacy. We create freedom, we create intimacy, we create impact. And through that, what is cultivated is like masculine leadership.
I love that. And I think it really goes to show that you've put a lot of time and effort to be able to reduce that into something so simple.
Yeah, right. And like my mantra is like, live freely, love deeply, serve humbly. Live freely, love deeply, serve humbly.
Amazing. Yeah, I really love that, man. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I think we're off to a good start.
Yes, bro.
And this is a topic that I'm super passionate about and one that excites me a lot. I think particularly given what I would call like my own blueprint, which is, so I did this exercise with Scott actually.
Yeah.
Who you cross paths with, and he did it. We did an exercise together, which was to basically have a piece of paper and split it in half, and on one side you've got your mum and your dad, and you write 3 good qualities and 3 bad qualities about them both.
Yeah.
And then you come up with a mission statement of what you want to take on and what you want to let go of.
Oh.
And my upbringing was without a father. So
What was your father's name?
Steve.
Steve.
Yeah. And so I navigated the world in this very interesting way, I'm now realizing, which is that I didn't have this masculine pole to guide and protect. And I also didn't see that in my community. And it was like, I was like, what does it even mean to be a man? And like, what are these qualities? And it's kind of like led me on this path as I'm older, is like, how do you actually define it? And if I don't find inspiration, or I can't look up to men within my community, like, what does it take to reestablish that and reinvent that? Because I think, although I think I've turned out all right, like I can definitely see where, as a community, not just for myself, but as a community, I think we're a lot better off with the masculine leadership qualities that I'm now realizing do exist.
Yeah, man.
And I feel like you're a huge part of that process, at least here in Australia.
Thanks, man. That's big. I want to cultivate healthy masculine culture. And then it's not about returning to the ways of old. It's about taking, like you said, the 3 good things, the 3 bad things from, one of the practices I get men to do. I'm like, choose 5 men that you're inspired by, real or fake. Some people choose Iron Man or the Hulk or Superman. I'm like, okay, say this, what are the 5 qualities what are the 5 values you see this person upholding? And guys, it's fun because it brings their child back out. It's like, oh, so I can choose Batman, or I can choose the Lone Ranger, or I can choose like the Ninja Turtles. I'm like, yeah, choose these archetypes. And what it does is it gets us into like, creativity of what am I taking on? What am I choosing to see as man? And we're here to fucking go deeper. Like, you have such a beautiful, gentle nature to you. The way that you move in the world is gentle and slow. From what I've experienced this morning, of like how you're very respectful. And I think that that's one aspect of the masculine. There's like the light, we call it the light masculine, or I call it the sacred masculine. And then I've got the savage masculine. So like there's a sacredness to the way that you move in the world. You relate with the world with respect. And then there's also this deeper part, like this savage masculine, that is what I believe the world is asking for us to cultivate in healthy ways so we can feel its presence, but we're not at the mercy of it. And guy Traver Boehm, he's an incredible men's coach in the US. He says, be dangerous, but not a danger. And that's where like the protection thing, I want to be able to set healthy boundaries with people without having to it end up in war. Be dangerous, but not a danger. Like, know your power and know when to use it and how to use it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what we've lacked, I think, is this this guidance and support network to kind of harness that power.
Yeah, man.
Because I remember hearing something very similar from Jordan Peterson.
Yeah, that's the other guy that says it.
Yeah, and it's there's so much more of a respect that you can have, I think, for someone that is capable of a lot of damage but chooses not to use it. But in the same turn is completely aware of what influence they have on standing their ground in their truth.
100%, man. 100%.
Yeah. And I appreciate that reflection as well.
Yeah, man. It's this is the thing. Like, a lot of people could say that that's not a good quality, that you need to, own your cock or be more aggressive or more assertive. It's like, well, no, that's not it. We first look at the qualities that we want to, like you said, 3 good things, 3 bad things, like 3. Like, okay, that's a good quality, and it's like, what I could feel for you if I was to, shoot from the hip and give you some advice, which you didn't ask for, so it's all good. We're just going to say it here in the space to play. Is like, it's like there's a part of you that's wants to like deepen into that savagery and deepen into that. And maybe in the past you might have had that, and you might have done some things that you're not proud of, or maybe you've done. For me, that's what happened to me. I did some stuff that I wasn't very proud of, and I held shame around because that savage in me is so fucking fiery that I then put that fire out, and I was like, I'm just going to play in the light. And we see this in a lot of guys. They leave the modern world where they're killers, and they come into the spiritual world. They put on the mala beads and the white pants and sing Hare Krishna and drink medicine and renounce all of their old ways. And it's like, well, can you actually embrace your spirituality or your lightness, the sacred part of you, and then learn how to integrate the qualities that you want to bring with you rather than just pushing that all away. And I think that's a journey that we all have to go on as men, where we have to work out, okay, what am I really good at, and can I own that? And then what am I cultivating to create more balance in my life?
Yeah. Yeah. Just reflecting on what you've shared. What's interesting to me about myself is I'm a Sagittarius. I'm a fire sign.
Yeah.
And I've never resonated with that until I found out my moon, which is Scorpio.
Okay.
And so I'm actually more feminine than I am masculine, at least when it comes to my makeup, astrology. And I feel like it's been a big journey to almost embrace that. And also recognize that I am a fire sign. So I have that fire, it's in me.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, maybe there's that's something I can really look into, but it's something I haven't really felt like I've needed to bring out of me, to be honest. I feel like I've cultivated a lot of my strength from this place of being grounded and centered and being able to get my message across from that place.
Totally, man. I would question that with a little reframe. I know that you ride scooters and you've been doing that for a long time, and that's I'd be interested to know when you're learning a new trick, how dedicated are you to learning that new trick? Could you spend a whole day just practicing?
Absolutely.
To me, that's the fire. That's fire. That's fire power. That's power. That's you've tended to your fire, your life force, and you're when other people would end up burning out, you would keep burning until you So I would say that the fire in you may be more tempered, but it's definitely not. It doesn't have to be the thing that is explosive. So what I'm hearing is the feminine, let it be water for the sake of it, and the fire, let that be the masculine. It's it sounds as though the water is what keeps you cool, and the fire gets to burn a little, burns more sustainably, maybe. Could be a perspective, because I often thought about that. Yeah,
it resonates a lot. Yeah,
and also, bro, when we do this with men's, if we put you in a situation where you have to fucking fight for your space, then I guarantee that we could get that fire to become explosive if we had to.
Absolutely.
But that's, that's why we do the work as men, so we can cultivate and experience our edges with that and be held in a safe way. So 30, 40 years time, we don't have fucking heart attacks or cancer. We've actually been learned how to move that energy, not let it become stagnant.
Totally, man. And I'm just thinking back now that there has been like moments in my life where I feel like that fire's come out in confrontation with other men.
Yeah.
And it's almost like because I didn't have the tools, I'd like shame that.
Yeah.
But really, like if I look back, every moment was like to stand for something that I had a value for.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so fascinating.
I guarantee you, if you put I guarantee you, every man, like eventually, if you put a group of men in a room and you give them a ball or you give them a big open field, naturally we will gravitate towards creating some kind of structure that sees who's the best at something, and it'll create some kind of dynamic of challenge and competition, and that's what that feeds us. We want to know our value. Which is what I I don't know where we're going with this, bro, but I'm loving this conversation. It's perfect.
Me too.
What we miss out on as men is like competition that has completion. So normally we'll compete, but then we'll take that mindset and we'll then try apply it to every area of life. But the actual fact is, like, we want to compete to develop our value as a man. Now, this is the piece that you need to understand. Your value and your worth are different. Your worth is unchanging. It is the thing that can never be taken from you. Every man is worthy. Full stop. Worthiness it cannot be changed. It's an absolute in my belief. Your value is what you develop whilst you're here on earth. Me at 18, if I had to become a men's coach, my value would have been shit. I would have had no value to give. But me at 34, I have a lot more value because I've been developing my skills in this area. And then when I'm 44, 54, 64, I'm going to have more and more value to deliver. Therefore, I'm going to be able to receive more value for that which I offer. If I choose to stay in men's coaching, who knows? But my worth, whether I'm 24, 34, 44, 54, 64, it remains the same. And my relationship to my worth has to stay, I have to stay connected to my worth so that my value doesn't become how I determine whether I'm good enough or not. It's a massive thing, the same like, I rode BMX, you've ridden scooters, when you start out, you can't do shit. But then a year later, 2 years later, 10 years later, you develop your value in that department. So therefore you're going to have more opportunity. You're going to be given more respect. Therefore, it affords you more value to come back to you. And that's a big thing that a lot of men don't understand, is that develop your value in the arena, but don't let the arena determine your worth.
Yeah, powerful. Yeah, I think I've gotten caught up in, I guess, a lack of self-worth through my own process. And it's cool to hear it in that framing. And I do forgot what I was going to say for a second. I do like that framing.
And what you said, bro, like I got caught up in it as well. That's part of the process, is you get trapped in the idea that I am the value that I give, which isn't true. Like if I believe in my spiritual beliefs, it's like, no, I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. I am worthy. Whether I make $1 million today or $1 today, I'm still worthy. Whether this podcast is shit or good, I'm still worthy. You're still worthy. And that, if I can remember that everyone's inherent worthiness is absolute and unchanging, then I can love people for where they're at, and I can love myself for where I'm at. And I can see, I want to develop more skills and add value to the world. And that's what gives me meaning as Jacob, the identity. But regardless of whether I achieve what I set out to do or not, I'm still going to be worthy. Yeah, I'm still deserving of and a showering of unconditional love from myself. Like I deserve that. Which is a bit of a paradox, right? It's another we're sort of at a crossroads again of like, I'm worthy, so do I actually have to do anything? Well, yeah, you do, because you get to like apply meaning to your life. You get to choose what your life means.
I feel as though it also gives you the permission slip and almost the strength to develop your value. Because if you don't have your worth, you also can't offer that to anybody else. But you're also probably in a space where, it's quite paralyzing.
And if you develop that value, right? Say you developed your value in the world and you identified that, hey, this is what makes me worthy, and then that all gets taken from you, and then you're sitting there without all of the things that you once had. Like, where does your worthiness? Like, what do you feel worthy? Well, the answer would normally be no, I don't, because all of the things that determine my worthiness are no longer here. So it's a paradox, man. I see a lot of men get trapped in this. You know, guys come to me with, they've been working so hard. You know, they've been focusing on that legacy piece, impact, workaholic. They deny themselves anything for themselves. Like they deny self. They don't do anything for themselves, and they just feed all of the money into their relationship, and they create this beautiful relationship that they never actually engage with because they're so focused on work. And then when their relationship falls down and their work no longer serves the relationship, they're like, well, where's the value? And what am I actually working for? Fuck, my worthiness is tied up in being the breadwinner for my woman. That's not true. That's where you've added value. But once again, if you're only adding provision and protection and you haven't been present, you know, you can build a beautiful home and put your wife in it and then go out and spend all your time at work and then never come home and actually like embrace and be present with that which you've created. Naturally, it's going to, you know, the wheels are going to fall off. So it's like you said, bro, I think like worthiness is the baseline. It's where we start from, and it's a permission slip. It's like, oh, okay, yep, worthiness. Okay, now what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Do I want to travel? Do I want to build a personal brand? Do I want to go and work in a grocery store? Do I want to go and work in a computer fucking IT? Do I want to go and become an engineer, a builder? How do I want to develop the skills that allow me to add value to the world, which then bring meaning to my life? So it's crazy to strip it all the way back, because then what are we faced with? We're faced with choice. When we own our worthiness, when we acknowledge our worthiness, we then get to choose, which is a massive thing for guys who maybe have been thrust into a schooling system that says do this, and then into uni or an apprenticeship that says do this, and then thrust into undergrad or like early employment where they're like, well, climb this ladder and you'll get what I've got, which will make you a success in the eyes of everyone else. So what you see is this trajectory in the modern world where men never actually choose from a place of worthiness. They're choosing from a place of when I get there, I will be enough.
Yeah, and it was mentioned on the last podcast that I did. My friend Jarrett, he said I said we have the most opportunity that we've ever had, but we also have the most distractions.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to think of the like using as an analogy, you know, you're at a restaurant and the menu's like 10 pages.
Yeah.
And there's just like so many things to choose from that you get in this complex where you're like, I don't even know what I want. And you're like ready to walk out the door.
Yeah.
And I feel like men are very much in that position where we could almost do anything. And if you have the worthiness piece, you almost can. But how would you say you would help men in finding something that's more true to themselves rather than it being, I guess, what society is pushing them into?
Yeah, man. Thank you. This is a great question. This is where we always start when I coach guys. Is like, what are you currently believing? Where did those beliefs come from? So we do a bit of a stripping back the layers. We go into what are the beliefs that you're currently holding, and quite often they're negative ones. Focused on, and they always track back to a feeling of unworthiness. But then we go, okay, cool. Where did those beliefs come from? Let's take a look at your childhood. Let's take a look at, what presence did your father, your mother, and other role models have in your life? And what were their beliefs, and how did you, take them on as your own? It's amazing when you start to look back and you're like, okay, what did my dad believe about sex? What did my dad believe about money? What did my dad believe about health? And I'm like, I don't think I had conversations about any three of those things with my dad when I was growing up. And it's like, oh, cool. Like there's a lot of me that was flying blind. So I learned from school friends. I learned from porn. I learned from TV. All of these. I learned all of these different things from my environment. What is actually true for me, or where can I go now if I don't know what to believe about finances? Who can I expose myself to that is a leader in that field? And that to me is a complete shift of like, okay, I can see where I'm lacking. I can see where I've got strong beliefs that will serve me. Now, who do I need to expose myself to moving forward, or what environments do I need to go into to develop my next level of capacity? But yeah, I believe, like, for men, if you feel like you don't know, if you feel like if you feel unworthy and you're at a point in your career or your relationship or your own journey with your health where you are the uncertainty, or you've had stuff, maybe you've quit your jobs, you've failed a business, or you've been fired or let go. Maybe your relationship is on the rocks. Maybe your health is not very good. Maybe you've got gut issues. Maybe you've got depression. Like, this is a sign that you need to actually do something. You need to go inward. You need to focus on yourself to understand why this is occurring, or why this is happening right now. And the best way to do that is for me, inner child work. Like, go back into your childhood and see where this shit started.
Yeah.
What did little Jacob need that he didn't get? And on the other hand, what did I get too much of? For me, I got wrapped in cotton wool. I had a lot of feminine energy present in my life, and it made me. I was like a little kind of novelty, and it was like, yeah. And when I wanted to break free from that and go and do dangerous shit, it's like, no, that's too dangerous. You're not allowed to do that. You have to stay home. You have to do what's safe. So I got too much love in that. I got too much caring. I got too much protection, from my mum and the other women in my life.
Relate to that.
Yeah. So it's like, sometimes we can look at, okay, I didn't get enough of this. And, just as the paradox works, if you didn't get enough of this, then there's going to be a part of you that got too much of something. That's a massive one that a lot of guys are like, oh, I was angry at my dad, but there's actually a part of me that's now angry at my mum. Oh, but she was so loving to me. She did all of, yeah. And in that, she's created this saturation, and it's like, oh, okay. And and guess what? This has nothing to do with your mum. Your mum is her own person. It's about what's going on inside of you. So we may be focusing on the relationship with your mum, but we're never going to go and fucking knock her door down and scream in her face. We're going to do it here. We're going to cultivate the ability to process those emotions, let them out here in a safe way, so that you can go and have a conversation, should you choose, with your mum around the dynamic that you want to move forward with. Because I know a lot of guys that are still dating their mum, and I was one of them. And it's a fucking confronting thing to see the emotional incest in your relationship with your mother. Like, I'm speaking from, I felt physically sick, and it knocked me when I acknowledged I was my mum's emotional lover, because my dad wasn't emotionally available. So by default, a sensitive, open-hearted young man is going to be more emotionally available. That's what my mum needs. It's safe. We're going to create that dynamic just by the environment, right? And that's not to say that my mum was wrong, that I was wrong. It's just the dynamic that's allowed us to feel the most safe. But it fucked up my relationship for a long time, not being able to fully choose and commit to Meg, because I still had part of me that felt like I had to like be in relationship with my mum. So I had to, disengage, create a sense of, healthy worthiness outside of that relationship with my mum, and then re-engage and say, hey, listen, this is now the dynamic, because you're no longer the number one woman in my life. You're number two. You might not even be number two, but you're now a little further down the priority list, which is, break your mum's heart. I had to do that and it sucked. But now we've got this whole new dynamic which allows both of us to live a much more fulfilling, loving life. And yeah, it's healthy. Healthier.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that.
No worries,
Can
bro.
relate to a lot of that for sure. And what comes through really strong with what you shared and touched on just before that as well is, these realizations can only integrate when you create the space. And I don't think we'd stand a chance if we're not creating that space.
100, man. I think like you were talking about the retreat that you went on, there was a lot of stillness.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the other things in the modern world that we miss out on is stillness. You said there's so much opportunity, but equally a lot of distraction as well. It's like there's always something to do. It's like a fucking carnival, this modern world.
Yeah, and it really takes you to be accountable to create that space.
Exactly.
And I feel like if you don't, like, life just rocks you. You have to face that anyway.
Life will always invite you, and if you don't say yes, eventually it'll grab you by the collar and drag you into the next iteration of whatever you're here to experience.
Yeah. Yeah, you actually brought up an event that happened quite recently. It was like when I was in Thailand, and I did a breathwork session, which was like really powerful. And then that same day, I decided to do this like guided meditation about the inner child.
Yeah.
And it was basically just provoking these questions. And it was asking me, like, can you go back into your childhood? Can you think of a core memory? And it was good because it kind of facilitated what I probably needed to look at. But, it did take me to create the space to actually sit down and do it.
100, bro.
And what I got out of that was so powerful. It took me back to this moment when I was in preschool, and I rarely have like any memories of my childhood. And it was me in preschool dressed up as Peter Pan, and I used to go to preschool dressed up as Peter Pan like all the time. There was just this kid that was at preschool that told me that I wasn't Peter Pan and I couldn't be him if I tried. And I connected that to I can't be, what I want to be. And if I try to pursue anything, it's going to be shut down. And that realization was like huge, and it was like this micro moment that I just completely shut out.
Yeah.
That quite literally probably shaped my life up until now, till I had that realization. But I think that is an example of these beliefs and stories that we might attach to and not even realize we have in the first place,
That's the perfect example, man. That's the perfect example of making space to revisit what could potentially be holding you back from more of what life wants to give you. Like, imagine having that belief from fucking 3 or 4 years old, I can't be who I want to be. And then like every moment you're inspired to be something more. You're like, well, I can't be who I want to be. Actually, I'll just stay the way I am. And that doesn't mean that you don't still continually evolve and grow. You will, but maybe not at the potential that you could have. And it's all perfect, right? It's all meant to happen the way it's meant to happen. But eventually, like you realize, oh man, I've been driving with the handbrake on, you know?
It's a great way to put it.
Or one of the things that I've been saying recently is like, I'm trying to start a fire with wet wood.
Yeah. Love it.
And what you've done is you've been like, okay, the wood's wet. I'm going to go and sit this wood out in the sun and I'm going to let it dry out. And then we'll start the fire. So essentially what you're doing is like, you're actually like sitting long enough for you to be aware of the thing that was stopping you from the next evolution. And that's, you know, I've had so many men that I've guided. I do inner child guided meditations and have a whole sort of structure of that I give guys understanding of the different stages of childhood and how these things, you know, what your basic needs were and why when you don't get enough of something this happens, or when you get too much of something this happens. And yeah, man, that a lot of us have got a similar, if not the same kind of belief that like, oh, it's not safe to be me. It's not safe to imagine a world where, or it's not safe to play in possibility. And like, you know, to have your golden ball taken from you at that young age, it's fucking brutal. But that is part of childhood. Someone's got to take that ball. There's always going to be, you know, there's a beautiful book. If anyone's listening, I highly recommend reading Iron John. It's a really incredible men's work. It kind of speaks around the journey into manhood. But you know, someone has to take your golden ball, your essence, your magic, and then you have to go on a journey of reclaiming that golden ball. And it sounds like that's what you've been doing, bro.
Yeah, you're singing my song.
And we all have to, you know, that's what a lot of guys, ideally it should happen in your 20s, your late teens, early 20s, but because we've been sold this kind of linear journey of school, uni, work, promotion, we don't ever make space to let the wood dry out or to like, hey, who the fuck's got my golden ball?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And sometimes time can go on to the point where you don't even realize you've lost it.
And there would have been two, if this is me shooting from the hip again, I'm going to be bold. Don't know why I'm being so bold today. There would have been instances where you had the opportunity to go on that journey to reclaim your golden ball and you said no. There would have been I'd say there'd be two instances in the last 10 years where you were invited to go on that journey, but because the structure in your life wasn't there, and it isn't for most people in the Western world, that you wouldn't have actually been able to say yes to it because there wasn't anyone to confide in and say, hey, you know, I'm feeling the call, or this is where I want to go. And I look back and I had, you know, for me, there was probably 4 or 5 instances before I actually chose to, hey, who the fuck's got my golden ball? It's time to go and find this motherfucker. Otherwise I'm going to live a life that's not mine.
Yeah.
It's not safe to be me. So I'm going to spend the rest of my life being someone else. That's fucking tragedy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I appreciate the boldness. It's always welcome. And there is some core memories I can look back on and definitely look at. And yeah, I think there's also like a level of acceptance there as well.
It has to be.
And it's perfect because this is how beautifully entangled it all is. I was with one of my ex-partners last night and we were catching up, and one of these initiations that I was welcomed into was with this woman, and we can now come back together years later and see where we played our own role in like facilitating where our lives are now at.
Yes.
And yeah, I said to her, that, you know, when we look at it, we kind of like regret is almost a permission slip to have made a different decision if you had the tools.
Yeah.
And I think that's all it is it's like if you had the tools, you would have made a different decision.
Yeah.
And that's a large part of why I'm trying to share the tools. It's like, because we just aren't given them, and they are out there. But yeah, I think if we have the tools, we have the education, maybe we can kind of like condense this waiting period and get our lives on track a bit sooner.
Massively, bro. And I think like what you're alluding to is not taking the challenges away from people going through these, but creating, not taking the challenges away, but removing the level of suffering that can be perpetuated over years.
Yeah.
And you used a word that I feel you embody beautifully, which is acceptance. It's like, hey, if I had the tools, maybe I would have used them. But, you give me if you gave me a full kit of Makita power tools, like I can't build you a house. I'd have to go through the journey of learning how to build a house. So what I hear in you is like the tools, one of the tools is accepting where you're at. Like that in itself is one of the most powerful tools. Acceptance that, hey,
that's the worthiness piece.
Yeah, I did what I did because that's what I thought was best at the time. And it happened the way it happened. And if it could have happened another way, it would have, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So what am I actually in resistance to? Just accepting that, hey, you did the best that you could. Another guy, I don't know if you know this guy, Charles Eisenstein. Have you heard of him?
Rings a bell.
He's a kind of a philosopher and a beautiful thought, sort of beautiful guy, like a deep thinker that communicates really powerfully. But he has this question: is like before you judge someone, including a past version of yourself, ask, what is it like to be you? So when 21-year-old Jacob, what is it like to be you? Oh man, like it's scary. It's scary to be 21 years old. It's scary. Like for me, I think back and like I can feel the fear in that version of me, the part of me that was so worried all the time, that was so activated all the time, that was so overwhelmed all the time. And the only way I could silence that was by doing extreme sports or partying to a point where I got to the edge of destruction. So for me, I can see the younger version of me. What was it like to be you? It was like you didn't know how to feel safe unless you were like creating a dynamic where it was literally life or death or serious injury, where you had to like literally be so present. That was the only way I knew. But now I know that I don't need that. I still like to do dangerous shit, but I don't need that to create a sense of freedom. I can sit here and be free. So, yeah, man, I love the word. Like I can accept that version of me. I can accept that in other people. I no longer need to change my little brother. I no longer need to hurry him up. Like, oh, you want to party? You want to fucking go crazy? You want to fucking adventure and do wild stuff? Man, like, I trust you. I trust your soul. And you use the word blueprint. I use the word, from Ram Dass, he says curriculum. I think they're one and the same. It's like, yeah, I trust that your soul is living the curriculum that it came here to live and learning the things that it needs to learn to arrive at the point of death, having done what it was meant to do here on this planet.
Yeah. Beautiful, man.
Fuck yeah.
We can probably segue.
Love a segue.
To, like, I love the word blueprint.
Yes.
And
let's go there.
I'd love to get a sense of, what your blueprint is, because I feel like you've stepped into this work with a lot of passion and a lot of drive. And from my own experience, I feel like that's come from, like, there's some sort of relatability to know that that's come from somewhere. So is there much that you could share on that, where a lot of this like passion and drive has come from to help men in a similar position?
I can kind of give you I'll give you the fast track version. Otherwise, we'll literally have to put in another SD card. But I grew up believing that I was responsible for other people's emotions. So the shadow of that is that I'm always worried about people. And I don't know if you like, even you coming here, I'm like, hey bro, can I make you coffee? Can I cook you something? I want to take care of people. It's a very beautiful quality, but the shadow of that is that I can't not worry. So there's a part of me that's always activated thinking about the, other people's emotional states. Are you okay? So that has been like the beautiful light and dark. I've grown up believing that I'm responsible for other people's emotions, which makes me really, really good at listening and really good at attuning to people. But I also have trouble switching that off. I'm the eldest of 4, so I'm the oldest brother of 2 sisters and a younger brother, and I feel a responsibility for them emotionally. I care about their emotional state. I care about my mother's emotional state. I felt like that was my role that I played on behalf of my father. I feel like that's the role that I play in my family. So naturally, I became a person who prioritizes relationships. That was what, yeah, I feel like that's where that kind of core ability to do this work has come from. It's also my darkest shadow. I developed that, and like I would always invite people into I never left anyone out. I got bullied in high school, and I knew what it was like to be on the outside, and I hated it. I hated not being cool. I hated not having any friends, and I really struggled. But I also pushed people away because I thought I was better than them. So there was this paradox of like, I really want to be part of the crew, but I also think that I'm better than you. And there was like this, if I think I'm better than you, then I don't have to acknowledge that I'm not part of the crew. So there was like this process that I went through, which was like, I actually crave being a part of a community. I crave being a part of the collective. And that was my high school years, bro. And then through my 20s, I had to commit suicide, and that really rocked me and rocked my community. And then I went on a bit of a sort of a soul searching journey after that. I lost myself in work. I lost myself in alcohol, lost myself in partying. And it wasn't until I met Meg and I worked at a health food store that I started to sort of go through that transition of like, I've been partying, I've been having fun, I've had zero responsibility. And now I'm eating all this health foods, and I'm having green smoothies, and I'm having probiotics, and I'm into kombucha now, and I'm, eating a little more plant-based, so I'm not just eating burgers all the time, and sourdough, all of this amazing food that I'm now eating and investing in. It was natural progression that when Meg and I got together, that she was calling me deeper and deeper onto my path of healing. And I had to choose that eventually, where she was like, hey, do you want to come on this adventure with me? Like, I'm going here. I'm not playing by the rules anymore. Well, she's never fucking played by the rules. That's been her greatest gift to me, is that she was like, hey, I'm over here in possibility. If you want to play in, what you already know and staying with that, that's okay. I just know that I want to be in a relationship where we're both pursuing, possibility. And I made that decision. I said yes. And after that, bro, I ended up going and doing a plant medicine ceremony, had my heart cracked open, went to Peru, and I literally like the next week booked a paid the deposit for a 3-week pilgrimage in Peru for 6 months later. And then when we were over there, this is kind of the result of all of that. I was incredible at relating. I was great at connecting with people, but I'd been doing that in areas that weren't fully lighting me up. Like in partying, I could connect with the crew and have a great time. In my work, I was great at customer service. With family and friends, I was great at connecting, but there was still a part of me that was a chameleon, that was changing who I was to fulfill that role. And then Peru, I spent 3 weeks with 15 women. And by the end of it, I was ready to never see another woman again. I was like, I'm sick of being around women. I'm sick of being around the feminine. And when I came back, I put up an event for a men's group. I said, this is when it's happening. This is what it is. Come and sit in a circle and we'll talk. And I remember messaging like 150 people, and we ended up having like 8 guys rock up. And that was sort of the first bit of men's work that I did. I was just like, I want to spend more time with men going deep. And after that night, I was like, this is I love connecting. I love relating. I'm good at it. But this is the environment that I want to do it in. This feels right. And then from there, bro, it just became a devotion to my journey of deepening with the plants, deepening with my lover, deepening with the structural work of how to actually run a men's coaching business. And yeah, man, I got initiated many, many times throughout that. And I had to keep choosing my path. That was the thing. It was like all of these distractions, all of these easier options were coming online, but I kept coming back to this men's work. I kept coming back to it.
Beautiful, man. Thanks for sharing that.
No worries, bro. That's
There's
obviously super condensed. We could go into it, but if there's anything there that you want to
Well, there's a lot of tangents I could go on.
Yeah,
but
bro.
I think the main one that stands out for me is how the feminine does and continues to invite you into stepping into a new version of yourself.
Yeah.
And I would almost relate that back to what you mentioned earlier, which is like you can almost look back on your life and you have these invitations, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So where I'm going with this is I guess we can speak a little bit about the role of the feminine when it comes to our own personal growth and how we can use that as another tool in our toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the past, I certainly ran away.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us do. It's like whether it's like a conscious or unconscious, you know, invitation. I feel like we are just continually tested and trialed.
Totally, man. The feminine, like there's a whole thing called feminine testing, which is, it's fickle. Like you've got to make sure, you know, there's the feminine testing, and then there's just being, you know, projecting your bullshit onto someone else. But for me, the feminine, one of the things that we speak about is calling it the oracle. So the feminine will feel intuitively and be able to sort of see what's next for something. She'll feel into the potential and the possibility, and then how she communicates that is up to her. But the way that she communicates that has a lot to do whether or not the masculine will accept the invitation. So for me, like Meg inviting me to like, hey, I'm going this way. Would you like to come? You know, when I left my hometown, my sister was the person that inspired me, because she said, hey, I'm going to uni. Do you want to come and this is what I'm going to go do. There's an open day. Would you like to come? I was like, yeah, I would. When I worked at the health food store, there was a beautiful, one of my dear friends, Kate, she was this beautiful invitation who just kept saying, hey, listen, have you know, when you buy a chook from Woolies, this is what's in it. You know, there's this chicken here and I can show you how to cook it. And she like taught me all of these things around health in a beautiful, loving way. That's the thing with the feminine is it's always inviting you deeper. It's always inviting you to take the next step along your path, because it's creation. Like the feminine is creation. So it's going to be always, you know, inviting you along the path of possibility. And that's where like the masculine, if you're open to it, you can expand rather than feel like you're being dragged along by it.
Yeah, and it's the reason I wanted to kind of highlight this is because I think it just kind of provides an understanding to a lot of people's experience. It's like, oh, like that's what was happening, you know, because we're always expanding, we're always growing. A relationship is always expanding, is always growing.
Correct. Yeah,
and usually what stands in the way is ourselves.
Our story. And
yeah,
I think just to like paint a picture, like my understanding of masculine and feminine is like you cannot have one without the other. Yeah, you can never have one without the other. If you look at polarity in any sense, you know, look at electricity, there's a positive and negative charge that creates that. You know, battery has two ends. Yeah. If you only had a terminal that connected to the positive, you wouldn't have power. If you look at life, what determines life? The opposite, death. There is no life without death. That's what makes life so fucking cool, is that one day we're going to die. If we didn't die, or we didn't drop our, as we call it, our meat suit, or if we didn't leave, if our soul or our consciousness didn't leave this physical body, and we call it death, if we didn't have death, then life wouldn't have the meaning that it does. So for the masculine to have meaning, there must be feminine. For the feminine to have meaning, there must be masculine. And to deny the other, like to say, I'm only masculine, I'm just going to be masculine for the rest of my life, and deny the feminine in me, is to literally like dry that wood out so much that there's nothing left. There's no creation left. There's just the observer, or just, you know, the witness to creation. And this is this is why I believe, I look at the masculine as like the container, and I look at the feminine as the expression that exists within the container, and that to me is creation. And when we boil that down into a relationship or into our own path of like building something, whether it's a personal brand, a fucking coffee table, a push bike, whatever, is like we're relating with both of these. We're in relationship to both the masculine and feminine. And it depends on how you want to, what level of polarity you want to experience in that.
Yeah, totally. And it very much is like the fabric of everything.
Totally, man.
And I think when you can see it in that sense, there's a much deeper appreciation for it all.
Yeah, there has to, you can't have light without dark. You can't, like, this is the paradox that I think, we have in the modern world too, is like, destruction is the other side of creation. That's the thing. I experienced this when I was hunting. Before my wedding, I went hunting and we caught a fucking small bull, and I had to go and sharpen my knife and come back and take the knife and stab it in the fucking heart and kill it if I wanted to eat the meat. And it became very real that for me to experience the food that I wanted to eat, I had to destroy something. I had to destroy life. And it was confronting. And I've eaten meat before, and I've watched, my grandfather kill sheep and gut them, and I've killed many fish, gutted them, cleaned them, cooked them, but I hadn't done it with that level of awareness. And I think that's where regardless of masculine or feminine, if you have an awareness of the relationship between the two, you're going to experience a deeper feeling in life. You're going to experience life in a much deeper way, which I think is what a lot of people are looking for, like a feeling, like a sense of feeling.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
think we do all
with that, bro, but
yeah. No, it's perfect. Amazing, man. Well, yeah, I feel like we could chat for hours. But is there, and we can probably just run this back another time.
Yeah.
But is there, I guess, anything you want to anything on your heart at the moment, or anything that you really feel like sharing with the world at the moment?
It's really prominent in my life, and I'm probably saying this more to myself than anyone else, but with the speed or the acceleration at which life is moving right now, with all of this new technology and all of this saturation of information in the world, I just want to remind men that it's okay to rest. So we're going to do another 3 things. All right, I'm going to go into my sacred 3. You want to be able to work hard, play hard, and rest hard. If you're a passionate man, fueled by desire to bring meaning to the world, then if you're working hard and you're playing hard, then you also have to rest hard. So I just want to invite men to know that there's nowhere that we need to get to. This world is going to keep on turning long after we're dead. So don't forget to rest and create that stillness for you to actually integrate what it is that you're experiencing. This is super important to be able to actually continually do the work that you want to do, or continually have fun with the people you want to have. Take time to rest. Take time to slow down and be with yourself and replenish your system. Because using supplements and health tonics and coffee and all of these other biohacking things that we're learning about and we're getting to experience, that's fucking, please keep doing them. Please keep looking after yourself and becoming more and more optimized. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that can replace being alone in stillness with nothing to do. It's not just replenishing your body, it's replenishing your soul, your spirit, your emotional capacity. It's a necessary part of the process. So work hard, play hard, but also rest hard, brothers.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great message to tie things off. And singing my song once again. So, yeah, really appreciate your time, man, and for welcoming me into your space.
Right on, bro.
I've got a good feeling that we'll be sat having a few more good conversations like this one. So,
bro, this is just the beginning. It's like connecting. What I love about this, this is the essence of I guess masculinity is being able to sit in a seat with another man and have a conversation and feel that I am able to speak what I want to speak, hear what you want to say, and feel a deep connection that we're both walking our path. And there's no need to be better or worse than. It's like this is true healthy relationship as men. And I think these podcasts, this way of being where we're slowing down and taking time to actually communicate, it's I think this is part of healing the masculine culture and creating what you said, like this emerging definition of masculinity where we're not doing what we always have done, but we're not exactly where we think we're going. We get to enjoy the process. So, bro, let's climb mountains, swim in streams, and sit in podcast chairs and talk about our dreams. Let's go.
Amazing, man. For my audience, where can they find you if they want to hear more?
Hit me up on Instagram at the Jacob Oneil, or on Facebook. I'm just Jacob Oneil, and I share all of my stuff there. And we got workshops here on the Gold Coast regularly, and we've got Meg and I have our podcast as well, Sex, Love, and Everything in Between. So if you want a dousing of relationships, that's a great place to go. We've got like 50 plus episodes of relationship stuff. And yeah, if you have a question, like, don't be a stranger. I'm always down for a back and forth in the DMs about absolutely anything. So bless up and appreciate the platform to share what I believe, bro.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Easy.